Hello, and welcome to the Green Island podcast. I'm Bernard Sheehan, joined as always with James Sheehan. We are the authors of Hard Border, the first in the Green Island novel series set during the time of the Brexit in Ireland and some of the chaos that was going on during that time. But we got plenty of chaos still going on during our time as well, so that's what we want to talk about. Always, talking about Ireland or our connections to Ireland, certainly from our perspective as Irish Americans, but also from the perspective that Ireland is kind of the petri dish and the test lab for a lot of the things going on in the world. So, with that, James, thanks for joining. We appreciate you hopping on here.
No, thanks very much for having me. Sorry, it's been about a week since our last one. I was a little under the weather, but we'll get back into it next week and kind of be punching them out. But all is great. Happy to be here.
Yeah,
Feeling
no,
great.
good. Glad you're on the mend. Yeah, it's been kind of a crazy week. We've seen some things we had mentioned in our last podcast. It's like, oh, hey, we've got like a little bit of a lull. Let's try to keep this, bright and focus on some of the good things. And we had some success in that, but then a couple days later, things started going sideways in Ireland again because they're continuing forward with all of their plans. They've got the new Taoiseach in place, and they haven't changed it at all. And we're continuing on Conor McGregor watch here, as it looks like that is continuing to gain steam for him to run as president. And you're seeing, Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan, just like, we're moving to Ireland if Conor becomes president, because this is, it's ridiculous all over Europe, certainly. So, but with that, I think that it looks like his fight is progressing. So that's happening, huh?
No, great. Yeah, it seems like it's still on track for the end of June, which is great. UFC 303. But the news today is, of course, Conor having a bunch of money, bought into the competitor to the UFC. So he's now an owner of what's called BKFC. I don't
Okay.
really know those acronyms, but I guess it's the competitor to the UFC. It can't be that big because I never heard of them. But it's there it is. So I guess he's going to. I would assume this is his last fight, at least for the UFC, because maybe
Yeah,
this one's kind of a lesser group. The big guys want to go in UFC. So
sure.
maybe he'll probably do a few bouts in there, keep them fresh. I don't know. I'm just assuming, but you're buying in. You might as well buy into something which is always a good investment if you know it, to buy into it. And if you're given the opportunity to kind of make it the new UFC, which Conor McGregor certainly has that, you know,
Yeah,
uh, should we say,
that
that
name
ambiance or
value.
whatever to make it happen. The
Yeah,
name value, exactly.
yeah.
So he can. I think it's all good, and he'll drive more. So I think, yeah, might as well. But I don't think UFC should be upset with them because they probably told him it's going to be his last fight anyways. You saw how hard it was to get this one up and running,
Right.
and he has bigger fish to fry. I mean, yeah, if he becomes president, I think a lot of people that have a problem with that country will be going back. At least I'll be visiting and happy to give him any free advice on that regard. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense that the Irish government's just moving along with their plans, fresh face, no one of real consequence, as we mentioned in the last podcast with the new PM. I mean, he's just a 37-year-old, not a great guy, easily replaceable. The powers that be have been running the other guys anyway, so they're all just faces. It's just another face to run the people into the ground, and it seems like they're still on their track. Bring more immigrants in. Let's dilute the white man say in the country. And give free stuff away if he does the refugees do what we tell them to do, which is, it's the same playbook everywhere, virtually everywhere.
Yep. Well, before we move off of Conor McGregor thing, like, I'm really interested in that new league, because I wonder if it's a situation where it's almost like the farm league for baseball here, or the AAA, where they you got the young guys coming up, or it could potentially be a combination of that and like MLS soccer here in the U.S., where they're bringing on big names. You just saw Messi sign with Miami, and he's a huge draw. And Connor's going to be continue to be a big draw, even if he's not on the main stage. So having that ownership piece and having something to expand, where it's guys who are not quite at the pinnacle on either side of the peak of the mountain, they still want to compete and they still have a lot of name value, or they're up and coming. So that's a pretty dang smart play from what I can
Well, what I
imagine.
see is it's a BKFC, which looks like it's a bare knuckle fighting organization.
Okay.
So they don't use pads, apparently,
Okay.
from
And
what I can roughly see.
and it's funny that you say that because, or that that's the way they're setting it up, because I've heard people say that the pads are actually worse than being bare knuckle. Because you can hit harder and stuff with those pads versus
Really?
if
Okay.
you're bare knuckle, you kind of need to preserve your hand maybe a little bit more. I've heard, I'm not an expert. I've listened to Joe Rogan talk about it, and that's about as far as it goes, because he's of the opinion, or like the way he puts it, it's just like you're basically using your skeleton to hit somebody else as hard as you can without breaking your own bones. So that's the whole point of the UFC, or point of ultimate fighting. So, it's
That makes sense because you don't want to break your hand.
yep,
I mean, a wrong hit. That's why if you ever see fights like in the movies or whatever, or kind of even Jack Reacher likes to use his head.
yep,
And if you're going for a swing and you put your head down and they crack you'll break their hand.
right,
Like and then they're gone. For a guy who used to get in fights when I was a super kid, like 10, 12, 15 years old, and my dad was an orthopedic, he's like, what's wrong with your knuckles? He's like, you've been getting in fights because my knuckles, my bottom knuckle, which is the pinky finger, is kind of disjointed because the punches roll off the knuckles at the bottom, and it's just like, oh yeah. So I kind of stopped after that, but just kind of local,
yep,
school fights, no
and
big deal,
and fights with me. You were certainly getting right in my last nerve back then. So, but
Yeah,
anyway,
no, and to show respect in the grade school, you got to throw punches.
there
The
you go.
wrestling mat doesn't work.
There you
Who can
go.
throw the punches? Because again, wrestling, the best wrestlers, they still got their head in the urinal if they, because I was tall and I could put them in your headlock pretty quick. So it didn't matter on that regard. But yeah, bare knuckle sounds pretty good. So I must see, and people want to change.
Yeah.
UFC's been played out, and bare knuckle sounds like it's pretty cool. So, and he does make good decisions. So let's see what happens.
And it's expensive. If you want to see it yourself in person, maybe you're paying a less cost at the gate. So there's that aspect of it as well. You're not always going to be able to fly to Vegas. Maybe that's something in a more local market. Who knows?
Who knows exactly?
So
We'll look into it as it goes on.
yeah,
So I don't think the UFC
interesting.
should really be upset with them because they don't do bare knuckles. So I think
Yeah.
the title of the thing I got in this morning from my feed was, "Oh, Dana White upset with Conor McGregor for investing in a competitor." Now going through it, it doesn't look like it's a competitor. It looks like it's just an adjunct, another fighting platform.
Exactly. Yeah.
That UFC could virtually buy into if they wanted to.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing, because they sold out. So now you need something new to get built up. But anyway, that sounds pretty cool. So I didn't want to kind of gloss over that. But now back, like you said, with back to kind of Ireland, you got the new Taoiseach in there. I've been, calling him Taoiseach Owen McLove. I don't know if you ever watched Father Ted back in the day, but there was a character, Owen McLove, who was a young idiot. And this is exactly the way this new guy sounds to me. He's a face. He's just a moron. But they're able to continue to push on with their agenda, and that is more immigration. It's more, really more of the same. And but now it's personal. It seems like the pushback is really coming. It's going to continue to come during the elections, and it's also happening right now. It was almost like right after we finished our last one that they were moving some migrants, or these folks who are illegal, or being welcomed in the country. I guess from an American perspective, I think of them as being illegal, but they're not. They're just allowing these folks to come into Ireland, and they're settling them wherever they can. And last week there was a little bit of a dust up in in a town kind of on the way in Wicklow, and it was gosh, I just lost the name of it. Sorry about that.
Greystones? Greystones? No.
No, it was here we go. Newtown Mount Kennedy is the name of the town. So it's kind
Okay.
of down. It's on the way to Wicklow. It's kind of between Bray and Wicklow, and
Okay.
and it was like, nope, no, we don't want this. You were starting to see protests in the town, and then the protests just got huge, like thousands of people, out of nowhere. And then, the Stasi comes in and they just started cracking skulls, and it got ugly pretty quick. They were, pepper spraying folks, following them. It looked like it was mostly peaceful protest. I'm looking at like a little video right now, and you've got, kind of moms with their kids in the prams and the Irish flag flying, marching through town. And then, of course, here comes, here come the enforcers. So that was, I think, maybe a breaking point here, or definitely a change in the level of tactics that they're going for to keep people down. So it's
well, they will go to that, but people just weren't aware. They weren't putting it on everybody. They're just putting it on the rare few. I mean, again, we had people with the Gardas came to their door and were accusing them, even though someone robbed their place, and or someone broke into their house, and they're just enforcers now. The Garda, they're not law enforcement. They're enforcers for the regime. They're the Stasi, effectively. And if you come to your door, good luck. That's the wrong way. You've done something. They're coming after you. But I think it's just growing out of control because they've kind of got everybody that were now it's like the masses. But they're going to push over, and it's like this PM. What a freaking joke! I mean, talk about you could snap him over your leg with easy. It's just a weakling, but he wants to talk a big game, and his initiation speech was like something about the flag and trying to give like an inspirational and I'm just like. It's like a movie scene, it's just like you guys don't believe in any of it.
Right.
You're just, it's like the movies, as I said last episode, I'm like, it's nice to see movies with honor, except the people behind the scenes don't even like it, what they're doing. And this is him, talk a great speech to rile them up and trying to change a voice, but it's such a joke. It's, and of course, then the old Taoiseach gets his $1 million deal with the multinational, what was it, some AI company to be their global reference or something like that. I'm like, the guy, and that's all it is. It's selling out now. Like he sold out and now he's going to sell up. And that's welcome to the liberal communist world.
Yeah.
You do your job, you get paid, and eventually they'll probably kill you. But before that, you'll get paid. And that's good little boy. On to the next guy who wants to get a paycheck. Yep. Like Simon Coveney, well, as I said, who resigned, didn't have to resign. He should have been the next guy up on the block. And he's just taking a step back. And I would say because they're going to give him a nice CEO job at some place for a couple mil,
Well, it's like a carrot and the stick, right? They give you the money, you're part of the elite, but they also have a lot on you so that if you turn around and try to do something against them, they will destroy you. And I think that's the kind of standard operating procedure, and Ireland is, as we've talked about, the testing ground for a lot of this. The amount of people that they're importing and just shoving in to try to destabilize the country, and it's working. It's working, and it's interesting to kind of see it happen. I'm glad we're away from it, but at the same time, it's also sad, right? Because you just see these people their houses are getting taken over, and again, we talked about the Stasi mentality of the guards now. The saying that I hear a lot, and I like it and I use it a lot, is at least Stalin knocked. These people don't even knock. They just, are pepper spraying and assaulting people in the streets.
It's no doubt. I mean, we had to flee Ireland. My dad had to flee it over the weekend. We changed his flights because everybody's like, they're coming for you now.
Yep.
Because we had them in the courts. They couldn't defend themselves. They ended up taking everything. And it was that. They were willing to offer us the carrot, which was 30 cents on the dollar rather than 10 cents on the dollar for your very valuable assets that they concocted to take it away from you. And we said, no. We want the full value. And that was the end of us. They got new judges in, and the judges got promoted for as fastest in history. Judges weren't even listening to our case they would be on their iPad. It was a joke. It was already pre-written. It's just like, and then at the end of it, when we kept on pushing, and our lawyer's like, oh, I need another 300,000 euros. In respect, that's about $400,000 every kind of 6 months, like 300, like no big deal, where in America it might be maybe 100,000 because they got to pay their lawyers. Then you have a barrister, and then you have a junior barrister, which are like the people that can talk to the judge. The solicitors can't talk to the judge or the lawyers. They have lawyers are mainly for contracts and to get all the discovery together. And it's like, and those guys are, so it crawls up so fast, and it's such a joke. And it's like, they're all in it together, and the barristers are talking to other barristers, the other side, and they see them every freaking day. It's not like you're in your law office. They're all in this one building called the Four Courts, these barristers.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you read Hardboiled chapter 4 or 5, you'll see exactly why they're in the, because they're all told what to do. And like it's all being managed by the judges, the barristers, they're all in the same place in Ireland. Same room, same court. It's not like they go back to their offices. And it's like, and the barristers are going to be the future judges. So they want to be in the good books, and they don't get nominated by the government, and there's no trial by jury. It's a complete sham. So it will be interesting to see what happens, because the protests are picking up everywhere. I mean, you see America, they can't control their protests, and it's on the same side.
Yep.
It's the same set of voters fighting against themselves.
We talk about it here in the U.S. where, and there's no example more than Ireland, where it's the judicial system isn't broken, it's fixed. The whole thing is a setup. It's just a fix up, and that's all the conclusions are already set in stone. It doesn't matter a bit of what your arguments are or anything, because there's no such thing as a fair trial. And maybe there never was in the US, but there's definitely not in Ireland. I mean, they just do what they want to do. They don't care about precedent. They don't care about the law. And, again, we're seeing more and more of that here in the States as well. But like I said, I don't know if there was ever that way in Ireland at all.
Probably not. Probably not, to be honest with you. It's always been a dirty communist country. But I mean, in the States, it is that. And I kind of always say now, lawsuits, the first round, the judges are just to get your information into the record.
Right.
Either you get a good ruling or bad ruling. Most likely, if it's a stitch up, it's a bad ruling. You know it's coming. Get all your stuff so that you can at least screw the precedent up as you appeal it to the appeals court, which will be, you could do it yourself. You don't have to pay a lawyer. You can regurgitate just like his submissions, and you can look up a few case law and get one lawyer to give you some case law, and then you're screwing up the system. So my advice to anybody listening to this is, like Ireland, stay out of state court. Always go federal. Any chance you can go federal, because it affects the entire U.S., and they're really hesitant to F up precedent, on that regard. But as you can see, Trump in New York with the Engeron, where he put on a $300 or $400 million judgment on him for no reason, that was all set up from the very beginning. And you can see now that appeals court can't wait to overturn that, because all the companies are fleeing New York. We don't trust you. We don't want you. Right. And it's like, well, who's going to pay your salaries then? So they're quick, but you could just see it that Illinois, where we're from, which I got out, it's the same crap. It's like, and they're all connected through the good old Democratic Party. It's just, it doesn't global. Ireland's their petri dish, as is Ukraine and stuff like that. So it's all the same, and it's just dirty shit, and they want to bankrupt you. Like, bring a court case against you, it's good enough to give a lawyer $400,000 or $500,000. I would, or minimal. I would rather do it myself, or pay him at the beginning, get some good stuff out of him, and then do the rest yourself, because there's nothing else you can do beyond the first couple submissions. But we'll see.
Well, it's interesting now in Ireland, again, with immigration, they're continuing to do it. They move those people into that town. They're going to continue to do that. But meanwhile, over in Britain, they're changing their policy, and they're like, we're going to start exporting you. So now all those folks that are either in England or, more importantly, in Northern Ireland, they're like, great, let's get to Ireland as fast as we can. So there's even more of a push of people coming in. And that's just...
Yeah, and I think the U.S. is doing that too. But you know what? That's where the riots are really going to happen. That's when the fights are really going to happen. It's almost like, well, you had your chance. Like, this is the problem. You let them in, you let them establish. Like, talk about humanitarian nightmare for these people that claim humanity. Like, you let them come, you let them set up lives, you let them kids get assimilated, and now you want to kick them back to a third world country that they might even, like, what's your deal? Like, it's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. Like, I'm all for deportation for everybody that came in America, say to Joe Biden, because you guys knew you were breaking the law. You knew you were taking advantage of a system. But someone who was coming to England like 5 or 10 years ago, what can you do with them? It's kind of like the people that are here now. It's kind of like, well, maybe we'll let you become in the armed forces if you can pass some IQ tests and stuff and earn your right. But it's pretty inhumane to kind of grab people out. I haven't been there for more than 3 or 4 or 5 years,
Well,
or should I say the last wave?
well, James, that's the whole game though, is to they get in and they're like, all we have to do then is stay for 5 years and they won't have the guts to kick us out. That's the whole freaking game. So that's why they come in and like it's a whole chance because we know Biden's here for 4 years. So now we only need to stay one more year and be able to survive, and then they won't have the guts to kick us out because we are established, we are a part of the community or whatever. But that shouldn't be the case. I mean, illegal is illegal. If you're here,
Agreed.
you should be out. That's the whole thing. And exactly what you said. Oh yeah, it's Biden, blah blah blah. But then he's the good guy letting people in. But then it's the next guy who has to turn around. Hopefully that'll be Trump. And kicking people out, and then that's the bad guy. So now you get to blame everything on Trump because he's the bad guy, and that's what these people do. So it's all a game to like, let's get people in, let's get people established, and then they can't unring the bell. And that's not right. You gotta have.
Well, Trump only has 4 years left. He doesn't give a crap. Who can? And I would be of opinion like you. You broke the law, you could go. I'm just saying that the people that allowed him in the first place don't really look at the repercussions. Like, I'm of the opinion you're illegal, you're out. No problem.
I think they do look at the repercussions, to be honest with you, especially here in the US, because they did the exact same thing. California was the petri dish 20, 30 years ago in the 90s when all the illegal immigrants came in. Now all of their kids are there in a voting age and they're voting for Democrats, and a Republican can't win in California ever again. And that's because of the immigration. And now they're doing it nationwide here in the US. That's what they want to do in Ireland as well. And if it's not them, it's their children that will be voters. And here in the US, they're already trying to give illegal immigrants voting rights. And what the other point that you brought up, I'm sorry to ramble here a little bit.
No, keep going. Awesome.
But allowing them to be in the military, that's the worst idea ever. Because now you've got a whole nation of people or a whole infrastructure that are armed and trained, and they have no allegiance to the country because they're running around waving a flag of a different country, not the U.S. flag. And in Ireland, they're not raising the the tricolor flag. They're there, and their allegiance is back to their home country. And so if you're training them to either be in the military or be kind of that next wave of guards, that's not a good situation. People wonder all the time, like, oh, why do men think about the Roman Empire so much? Because this is the recipe that took down the Roman Empire of having illegals come into Rome and running and being in the military. That's Attila the Hun. He was a Roman military guy. It's not like he was some savage just from Germany. He was he grew up, as a Roman. He was a foreigner certainly, but not like a guy who just came out of nowhere like Genghis Khan. He was part of the Roman Empire writ large and in the military, and that's what we're doing now.
Well, I mean, and when I suggest that, it's more like, full aptitude, making sure. But you see Congress now, when they give the Ukraine aid, they're all waving Ukraine flags. These are politicians, stuff like that. It's just, but again, the way I look at it is really, it's just the baby boomers that had just the cushiest life ever, really no major war, were able to build two houses if you had somewhat of a decent job. And they're just going to take it all before they leave, straight to the grave, like Mitch McConnell. It doesn't matter. I don't care what the next generation has. It's not my problem, as long as I get paid.
And it's funny that you say that, because I commented on that on X today, that the baby boomers are the worst generation, because we saw it during 2021, 2020, 2021, all they cared about was themselves. They cared about themselves living. They didn't care about grandma and grandpa dying. They didn't care about their children being out in the cold, freezing to death, and having to eat, socially distance out in, frostbite weather. They only cared about themselves and their safety. So they did have Vietnam, but then they've been bashed over our heads with Vietnam for 30 years. So it's just like, it's all about them all the time. And at least here in America, they're the worst generation in history because all they've cared about.
Without a doubt. The most selfish, worst generation. I don't care who you say, they are the most selfish people. And it just shows now, like, again, if you look at the wages, you're looking at guys our age, like, let's say we're 35 to 55, young still. Because in the older generation, 55 to 75, 80, they're still in their freaking job. We can't go up anymore because they won't leave. They won't vacate that 300 grand job, even though they're doing 1/10 the work. They're delegating. It's like partners and lawyers, partners in accountancy firms, doctors. All the doctors at the top are old people that don't actually work and are collecting the majority of the money. And they're like, oh, eventually you'll get up there. By that time, everything's going to be bankrupt. And the salary that you're being given won't be given available to us. My wife works for a hospital. She's doing the exact same job, but is on a different contract than like people 10 years older. They're virtually making double her money, and they are so incompetent they can't even do almost half the work. And it's like, and that is it across the board. It's like, no wonder you're able to buy a house with one income, and you also have the summer house up in, I don't know, Michigan,
Right.
or the cottage or the place in Florida. It's like, yeah, because you've been milking it. Because when we were coming up, we had maybe go to Jewel, there would be 4 different bags of chips on the aisle. Now there's like 25 because you guys have just building and building and building, but you're not sharing. It's like, oh, the biggest wealth transfer is going to happen. It's like, we need the money now while we're dealing with kids. Then when you die and I'm 55 and my kids are already through college and you're going to give me a shitload of money, I don't want the money then. It doesn't matter,
Well, and that's the thing though, because they don't care. Every other generation in history always wants the next generation, and particularly their grandkids, to do better than them and to build them up and to get them into good schools and all of that good stuff and make sure that they're on their way. And, as a whole, this generation, these baby boomers have not done that. And you can see it even today. And this is a little bit of a side note, but where this came from was Jeff Goldblum. I don't know if you know that actor. He's just like,
I know him.
I'm not leaving any money to my kids. And he's got like, an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old or something like that with his current wife. And I'm sure it's not the first wife. And it's like, here you go. Perfect baby boomer. You're not even around and you won't take care of your kids. But either he's going to spend it all on himself, which is probably the case, or he's going to just give it away to whatever his selfish thoughts are. They'll put his name on a piece of, on some platform.
Yeah, they'll build them an abortion clinic down in California, the 5th one. You're like, absolutely. It's like Gordon Ramsay says that exact same shit. I'm not sharing it with my kids. I'm like, you're such a scumbag because they're so used to the lifestyle, and then you're going pauper them when you die.
Right.
Like, why don't you just at least give them a house or something? You're worth 80 million bucks or 200 million. Like, give each one a house and maybe some like a little money for a vacation or a few timeshares, and then they can go off on their own. But like this day and age, no one can even afford to get a house or get an apartment or get on the property ladder. And these guys, and they're probably just talking rubbish as well, that they're not giving it away, but it makes them feel good because all they care about is their freaking selves.
Right.
And it's just, it bothers the shit out of me now. Every time I see old people that are like retired and have 2 houses and all this, and it's just like, you guys are just scumbags because you just don't share. It's like, oh, I'm going to keep it for myself. It's just like, you're so old now, you're 80. Your kids need the money now when their kids are going through high school and grade school, and give them a better life and like maybe take the mortgage away. Will change the world for a lot of people. No, I'm going to have 2 and then I'll give it away when I die. It's just like, it's just crazy. Yeah. I'm just so tired of them, but they are just the worst. And every time I see Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, George W. Bush, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, or anybody in Ireland, all they care about is their wealth and what they're going to get. And you can see it with the guys going to get the $1 million jobs. It's the only way guys our age are going to get $1 million jobs is if they sell out, or they're guaranteed that they're going to be the next pieces of shit for the next generation. So, and they, there we are, because we all grew up in 80s movies and we want the good guys to win. It's a hard mentality then when you're kind of actively saying, well, I'm going to screw over people because the baby boomers didn't have those movies. So they're kind of like, well, I'd have no problem screwing over people. I mean, get a lawyer talk to a lawyer that's over 50. He's definitely screwed many, many people out of money, just even indirectly or whatever. The lawyer is maybe the worst job in the history of the world if you want to maintain your soul. because you just can't not screw people out of your job. But the baby boomers are just the worst. And let's see what comes out of it. But it's amazing because I don't know if you saw the Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan interview, which is pretty popular right
Yeah,
now.
I've seen bits of it.
Um, yeah, I've seen bits, just like 5 minutes. But he said that, and he's talking about Mike Johnson, the current speaker, which, he's absolutely right. He's like, you don't understand. The devil goes after weak people. He goes after people that haven't been challenged. It's just the way it works. The demons go for the weak people, or the weak people are the easiest corruptible. And I put everybody almost in the baby boomer generation into that category of just being weak. World War II was a real war. Vietnam was an orchestrated war. It was another Ukraine. And if you were smart, you would have ran if you had any balls. Like Mel Gibson, I think Dad picked him up and moved him to Australia to avoid the Vietnam War. You're either plugged in or you're on the take, like John Kerry, who probably didn't serve, but was really just a mouthpiece. When he came back and talked about Vietnam and would go in front of Congress, it's like, you went to Harvard, you're probably just a mouthpiece and didn't really see any action while the young guys are going off to get their heads blown off, and nothing's going to change. Ukraine, they're going to start sending people there too, for nothing, Like, as you said, you sent me that text about Gaza, and we're probably running out of time. The thing they're building in Gaza to kind of bring humanitarian aid. But, it's not like, a lot of people are like, it's not for humanitarian. They're setting up for easy access for the troops to roll in,
Right. Yep.
That's my interpretation.
Yep.
And they're just fucking liars. Every single last one of they're just liars.
They're liars.
And they're so used to it now.
Exactly. So things continue to get, crazy. One other thing I just want to bring up here at the end is that Derry has a new mayor, and I guess she is a former refugee or something, and she is a black lady, first black mayor in maybe like the UK all in, or certainly in Ireland, and that's also getting on the radar of the world too. Alex Jones messaged or talked about it, and it's just like, okay, this is where the push for multiculturalism is really off the charts. And again, Ireland always being the petri dish, so that's not helping the situation. All they do is raise the temperature of these people.
Because the culture of Ireland used to be Catholic and like good and respectful, and they want to destroy that. I mean, now I wouldn't trust anybody to go to that country except maybe the visit. They are just lethal. And as you can see, Bern, but it's their own medicine because they're such a bunch of sheep. And it's so small that they like, oh, I'm not voting for the black mayor. How dare you not vote for the black mayor? Are you racist? Your whole kitchen table will be at you. Because they just click off one by one. And it's like, that's how Ireland went bankrupt. Oh, you don't own the investment property? You're losing money. You better go down to the bank and buy a house tomorrow if you have some income, because you're just losing money, and it's never going to come back. And that's how Ireland, and it's like they're voting for these people, like the PM and stuff that's currently in there. How about you start putting some proper people up, but they never get them. You really need Conor McGregor to come in there as a president and then start getting other people. Like if the Tates move there, have them run for office. If I move there, I'll run for office, and just get that load of crap people out of there, because it's the same fuckers every single time. They've been there for 30, 40 years. Never, they just keep voting them in.
Yeah. All right. I think with that, we'll call it for today. Appreciate you hopping on the line. Thank you, everybody, for listening out there. Again, Hard Border available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Also follow us on Twitter. And please like and subscribe to this. That helps us grow. Appreciate it. Thanks so much, Jay.
Thanks, Bern. Appreciate it. We'll talk again.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.